welcome back to Rebekah. We did it. We did Lovember Readathon. That 2 weeks really flew by. I can't believe it's already December, but I also read a ton. So I just wanted to catch up with you about everything that you read. Let me know how your Lovember went. And I'm looking forward to seeing other people hopefully wrapping up their Lovember reads, because I did see several people having great reading projects with this and getting through a lot of their romance reading. So hopefully you found some new great romance reads. I definitely did. And some new authors that I will want to pick up more from. And I bought an entire author's backlist. So it went really, really well. In terms of my volume, obviously I picked up a huge amount of books. I picked up a stack of 15 books from my library. So I did not read all of the books I picked up. Definitely didn't do that, but I did read a lot, kind of more than I was actually expecting to, because I was still reading some other things. I read a novelette, a novella, an ebook, an audiobook, and 3 print books in the 2 weeks. So that is a lot of reading. That really impressed myself in how much I got done. So I definitely hit all of the prompts as well. So let's run through catching up on the books that I read since last time we checked in, and then check in on the prompts that I hit. On audio, I read The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Ridley, and this is the second of the Wild Winchesters series. It is obviously a historical sapphic romance following kind of a Regency setup, very obviously, wherein we have everything about like the Ton and the active courtship season going on. So that's a really big element. So if you kind of like the Bridgerton vibes, I think you could go for this if you're looking for something more progressive even. So this one, we're following Thomasina, or Tommy, and Philippa. And Thomasina is one of the Wild Winchesters. She frequently goes out into polite society in disguises. So she has sort of met and developed a crush, an infatuation for Philippa, who is very much a proper blue stocking member of polite society, whose parents are pushing her to get married this season. And Thomasina has never really had the chance to interact with her as herself, because the Winchesters are very much outside and unwelcome in polite society for the most part, other than her sister now, who has married into the Ton. However, because she's never had the opportunity there, she kind of finds out about an opportunity where she can play the Baron von Bean, which is a made-up character of their family's making, basically, to protect them because they were adopted children. So the Baron was meant to be the official heir, even though they have trust to keep funding their lives, basically. So Thomasina can kind of step into polite society as this titled person and get away with it, more or less, and actually have some direct interactions with Thomasina in the role that she wants. So she does, and almost immediately does tell Thomasina who she is really, and so they wind up on this scheme to try and find each other partners because of a sort of miscommunication that leads them to think, well, no, the other can't actually want me because it's so inappropriate. So they're having this honest relationship while outwardly playing this fake dating thing, and it sort of is a fake dating turns real dating, because as they become more honest and open with each other, they obviously realize, hey, we do actually kind of feel a spark and have a spark with each other. So I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. I love the aspect of Thomasina is really clearly this character who is probably gender queer by our modern standards. She's explicit in the text as saying, I don't really feel like a man or a woman. And that comes up a lot. I think that maybe was repeated a little bit much, but I don't know if that's just because it's something I'm very familiar with. It seemed like it was not covering new ground every time it was bringing that up, though. So it did feel maybe repetitive, but I think that was fine. I think that their relationship progression was really beautiful. I love seeing them very slowly progress their relationship, because they obviously had no reason to suspect the other would be even open to having a relationship with each other, and they do. There's also a backdrop plot to this that's very bookish, because Philippa is a blue stocking. She's very into this book and reading group, basically. She's also, in this case, into ancient manuscripts. So they're looking into the mystery of this ancient manuscript that also has a sapphic undertone to it. And so they're doing research about that. It involves some heists. It involves some sneaky cons, definitely. So there is that great action, not high action, but enough thrilling action where it sweeps you up in the story, not just the romance. So I thought it was really well balanced, and I really enjoyed both the plot, the romance, the characters, the setting. Everything was just very charming and really pulled me into this one. So that one on audio, the narration was really fantastic. So I highly recommend the audio, but for myself, I don't usually do audio for books that have steamy scenes in them, and this did have a couple of those scenes. So they are open door on the page, definitely, so just be aware if you're looking for that or not. There are a couple in there toward the end. Then I read Claim the Dragon by A.C. Arthur. So this was just plain entertaining, I would say. It is definitely in the paranormal romance, urban fantasy type setting, where it's really gritty, dark. There's kind of an underworld of enforcers and vampires and dragon shifters, a lot going on. It's very much the standard of paranormal romance, is they throw in everything and the kitchen sink into their world building, and I think that's true here. I did not go through, but there is a very dense glossary at the beginning that kind of explains a lot about this world and the different Dracon houses, that sort of thing. So I didn't bother with that. I was in it for mainly the entertainment value. And I also am reading this, the second book, on its own without having read the first. So I think probably there is a lot more world building than I actually got, but I do think there's pretty good world building here, even without having all of that background and context. This is very, very fun in that, as I said, it's kind of gritty, and we are following a definite hate to love that really plays that up. So we're following Raven and Steel. Those are our two POV characters. Raven is a human thief, and she has been on a job that's supposed to be a massive payout to help her out. And it's stealing this dagger. And of course, our dragon Steel is the security for this item. And so they aren't really like personally hating each other, but they kind of have to be enemies because it's their job, right? So that's very much how it plays out, I would say. There's this whole element of him having to jail her, imprison her for her own good, and because it's his job, because he has to lock her up to keep her from, taking off with this dagger and everything. They have literal moments of hand-to-hand combat that turns sexy, that sort of thing. Very much this is that book. So if you like that, this is definitely kind of more toward the smutty end of things as well. A lot of graphic scenes, but I would not call this erotica. There is a ton of plot, there is a ton of action to this, so it's pretty balanced between the actual action and the smutty scenes. So it really was entertaining and propulsive to read. I would say there's not a lot of character growth or depth. There is a little bit. I think it does try to do that. There are some backstory elements to each of the characters, definitely. However, there's not a lot of progression. A lot of the action is just for action's sake. It doesn't really progress the plot. It's like, we're doing things, that sort of thing. So yeah, I had an entertaining time with this one. I don't think it was too terribly memorable, but I think it was very creative and fun to read. And in terms of the print book that I picked up, it was Digging Up Love by Chandra Blumberg. So this is the one that stood out, I think, for myself and everyone when I had my pile of possibilities, because it does actually really deliver on the elevator pitch that is a baker paleontologist romance. Obviously, I had to pick that one up. And this one, we're following clearly Alicia the baker, who has been kind of stuck at her grandparents' barbecue restaurant. And she has the desserts there, basically, but she wants to break out and make her own bakery. And she's feeling a lot of responsibility from her family about that. And then they're digging in the backyard and strike bones. And that sets off Quentin, this paleontologist from the university, with his university crew, setting out in their backyard to excavate for the summer, basically. And so they're kind of in forced proximity for a long while over the course of this summer excavation as they're digging up dinosaur bones. And I think they definitely get off on the wrong foot because Alicia is really unhappy about the fact that they're there and thinks that they may be kind of taking advantage of her grandparents. And so she's overprotective of her family, definitely. She feels a strong responsibility for her family. So I think that element of starting off on the wrong foot, I don't know if I loved how it was executed, mainly because both characters are extremely prickly, but not just with each other, also with basically everyone around them. So kind of when you have that, you really need them to be soft with someone else. Like they need to be that soft, squishy person you're going to see them develop into, right? And we don't get that. We get just all around prickly all the time at the very beginning. There's another period toward the end where we go through some drama and they kind of get both very prickly again. And it's understandable given their circumstances and the pressures of the people surrounding them. They both have a lot of family pressures going on and antagonism going on. So it makes sense, but the balance I think was off. And I think that probably comes down to this being a debut, so I really would pick up something from this author again, and I very much enjoyed this, but I think that balance was off. They do, however, soften toward each other. So we do actually see that squishy, soft relationship progress, and I really did get into it once that kind of started happening, and we start seeing them go out and have these cozy dates at a local fair, and like very, very heartwarming, cozy stuff. And as I said up front, like this does really deliver on the elevator bitch. So we actually do have like baking and paleontology content in here to some degree. So it's not a bait and switch like you often get where you get a buzzword and then you kind of get mentions of that through the book, but it's not really a major part of it. Here it is definitely a major part of it, both the baking and the paleontology. So I enjoyed almost everything about this except for that element of them just being really too prickly for me at certain parts. Yeah, this was a really good find, and I think the second book is already out, so I will be keeping my eye out for it. For the prompts, I think I covered them off multiple times over. For fantasy, I read Mistlefoe and Claim the Dragon. For criminal, I have Claim the Dragon and Perks of Loving a Wallflower. For hate to love, we have Digging Up Love, Mistlefoe, and Claim the Dragon. For tattoo or instrument, we have Claim the Dragon. You can see that was a very high power one for hitting the prompts. For celebrity, I have If the Boot Fits. For contemporary, I have If the Boot Fits, Digging Up Love, Fall Into You, and I think that's it. For red on the cover, we have Digging Up Love and Fall Into You. For historical, I had A Lady for a Duke and Perks of Loving a Wallflower. And for forced proximity, we have a lot here. So I kind of counted If the Boot Fits, definitely Digging Up Love and A Lady for a Duke, Mistlefoe as well, and Fall Into You. You could maybe say because they lived in the same small town, but that's a here or there. So we definitely hit all the prompts. So that is it for my Lovember readathon. I'm sad to see it go, but I do still have a massive pile of romance books, so I'm gonna dial it back a little bit. And of course, as soon as I finished up the readathon and the time was out, my hold for Stand Up Groomsman by Jackie Lau came in. So that is the next thing I think I will be getting to. So that is it for my Lovember readathon. I hope you had a great time. Please let me know, share down below what your favorite read of Lovember was, and if you made a Lovember wrap-up, please link it down below. Thanks so much for watching.